requirement provided for the Open Public Meeting Law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given. Said notice have been transmitted to the Courier News and the Star Ledger on January 7, 2013, as well as posted on the bulletin board in the city clerk's office. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Yes, Council President. Councilwoman Brown, absent during roll call. Councilwoman Breeze.
Here.
Councilman Met.
Here.
Councilman Storch.
Yes, I'm running about 15 minutes late.
Councilman Storch, absent during roll call. Councilwoman Williams. Here. Chairman Reed.
Here. Council
President Rivers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Humbly, we ask God, the giver of peace and the love of charity, to give the entire family of nations true agreement with his will and to grant the light of his spirit on all those who work for justice and peace. Amen.
May I have a motion to approve the following minutes as presented? Regular meeting, May 13, 2013, and regular meeting, June 17, 2013.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Do we have any ceremonial matters? None listed. Communication from the mayor?
Yes, correspondence dated June 25th from Her Honor Mayor Sharon Robinson Briggs, addressed to members of the governing body requesting the advice and consent to the appointment of Diane Sherry Bono to serve as treasurer for the city of Plainfield for a one-year term effective August 1st, 2013, and into July 31st, 2014. Said term is effective immediately upon adoption and confirmation of the oath of office. We have correspondence dated June 25th, 2013, from Her Honor Mayor Sharon Robinson Briggs, addressed to members of the governing body requesting advice and consent to the appointment of Ricky Williams to serve as Commissioner of the Plainfield Housing Authority for a 5-year term ending July 1st, 2018. Said term is effective immediately upon adoption and confirmation of oath of office. For the purpose of memorialization, Her Honor the Mayor Sharon Robinson Briggs has submitted a proclamation in celebration of the life, legacy, growth by unity, and memory of Lieutenant Thomas J. Lowe II.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any other communications or petitions?
None to report at this time.
Report of special committees?
No written report submitted.
I would like to take a moment to suspend the regular order of business. Ms. Gudenkauf asked to come to the mic and have a motion to suspend the regular order of business.
So moved.
All those,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Council. I'm Dottie Gudenkauf, 414 Randolph Road in Plainfield. Like so many of us, I was appalled by the verdict in the Trayvon Martin case. This is another example of a young black man minding his own business who is ruthlessly killed by a vigilante who has just been acquitted by a jury of his peers. And I believe it's outrageous. And I would like to ask that the council, and I assume unanimously, pass a resolution as a special order of business. It's not on the agenda. Protesting the outcome of that trial and directing the mayor and the city council president to send a letter to President Obama and to Attorney General Holder requesting a full federal investigation of the civil rights issues raised in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Which one needs to go?
Council President, we can certainly, if the council so desires, we can prepare language for next month's meeting for council's review, at which time council can deliberate on whether or not to adopt a resolution which would incorporate everything Ms. Gudenkauf said.
Madam Chairman, I think it needs to be dealt with now. I do not think that you ought to wait a month. There's a lot of pressure going on across, largely across the internet, with petitions to the Justice Department and the President. And if you wait a month, it may very well be too late.
I would suggest that we do a resolution this evening. It'll be a very simple resolution, expressing the thoughts that were just expressed by Ms. Bunkar and authorizing the Corporation Council and or the clerk to draft such a letter and have it expedited to the federal authorities.
I concur.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now can I have a motion to go back into our regular business meeting?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to unfinished business. At this time, I would like the administration to address the questions that were raised at our June 17th meeting.
Thank you, Madam President, City Council. There was one open question that remained from the last meeting. That was, when will the lights at the War Memorial be fully functional and repaired? As I stated in that meeting, we had a contractor come out last week, and as of Friday night, all the lights are operational and repaired and working order tonight.
Thank you.
In addition to that, Mr. Manchella had one other item to follow up with.
Okay.
Thank you, Council President. At our agenda fixing session, we had discussed a resolution authorizing settlement with regard to the matter with the Union County Improvement Authority. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, lead counsel for the Union County Improvement Authority was away on vacation this whole week. Only today we were able to begin hammering out the details of any proposed settlement. So unfortunately, that will be an item for the August meeting, and I will keep everyone apprised. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along, can I have an update on the shared services with the Board of Education, please?
Yes, you can. Mr. Manchella and I have met, excuse me, with members of the Board of Education over the last month or so, and we have engaged in a very good dialogue on a litany of topics that we advanced to the first level of discussion. They're varied in nature, some that we believe with some effort can happen sooner than others, and then some are long-term and strategic that we need to put really some time to study the impacts of it. Certainly, we approach that looking at how is it mutually beneficial to not only them, but to us as well, to enter to any agreement that would be put forth as a shared service. As of this moment, we're waiting for some responses and feedback from the administrators at the Board of Ed before we can proceed on the, what I would call low-lying fruit items that we might present to City Council.
Okay.
And as we move forward, we'll bring those items back before you.
Thanks for the update. Okay, Mr. Chairman, would you please offer NC 2013 for second reading, please?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to say to the audience, it's always a pleasure to see you here with us, interested in how we conduct things and interested in Plainfield. Hope we're doing a relatively good job for you. Under consideration of ordinance for passage on second reading, I call up for second reading an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 10, Morals and Conduct, to add Article 12, Outdoor Smoking Prohibited on City Properties. And I request the clerk to produce affidavit of publication and at the same time read the ordinance by title.
The clerk's office concurs with the reading of the ordinance by Chairman Reed and further certified that this ordinance is published in the Star Ledger and Courier News on June 22nd, 2013.
Thank you. Therefore, I move public hearing be held on the ordinance. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The floor is open.
Well, it's me again, Dottie Gutenberg, 414 Randolph Road. When I attended the meeting at which this initially was proposed, it sounded very different from what I just read in its fullness. The discussion at that time had to do with city parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, public recreation areas. It did not have to do with the sidewalks around Municipal Court or around City Hall or the City Hall parking lot, none of those things came up. There are an awful lot of sidewalks in this town that are city property. I think that what has come out of the council's deliberations is a lot broader than what went into it. And I would most earnestly request, listen, I don't want people smoking in playgrounds either, or in library park, but I would most earnestly suggest that the council take this back to the drawing board and redefine it in the terms in which it was originally presented to the council at a meeting which I attended and listened to the presentation. I would really urge the council to do that. This is something I think that needs to be more carefully thought through before it's adopted. Because I'm not sure that you meant to include all of the sidewalks on Park Avenue, West 8th Street, Arlington Avenue, and West 9th Street, all of which surround city property, or the sidewalks out in front of City Hall or out in front of the courthouse, or anything like that. Parks, swimming pools, playgrounds, absolutely. Inside buildings, absolutely. But I think that this has come out in a lot broader form than was initially presented and initially envisioned, and I would urge the council to send it back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Council President, if I may think, I just want to clarify a point. No, this ordinance does not regulate smoking on sidewalks.
Yes,
It is specifically not included. And if you look at the definition of what is included, it is municipal buildings, parking lots, recreational facilities. It does not include sidewalks. It makes no mention whatsoever of sidewalks anywhere within the language of the ordinance.
Bernice Pagley, 120 Street. I was interested to see that the enforcing entity will be a health officer or a code enforcement person. We don't have a health officer. We have a contract with Elizabeth to have health officer services, and so I seriously doubt they'll be out here looking around for people smoking. And the code enforcement, they would sort of have to show up by happenstance while doing their other duties. So I was curious about the
Council President, if I may respond. The language specifically says the health officer or his or her designee, a law enforcement officer, or a city code enforcement officer. So all three. So although we do not have a health officer in the city at all times, we do have health enforcement officials who could fill the same qualification.
John E. Pritchard, 723 Arlington Avenue. Regarding Lieutenant Thomas Lowe, Plainfield Fire Department, we must honor the memory of one fine guy who did his best to protect us all from disaster and fire. A firefighter's job is dangerous enough. It's in fact more dangerous than police officers sometimes. So let me.
John, this is the hearing on the ordinance.
Oh, my apologies. Then I'll mention that later on. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen of the council.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Rogers from the Chronic Disease Coalition of Middlesex and Union Counties. And I just wanted to speak to that enforcement issue. Tobacco Free New Jersey has done a survey of the municipalities in New Jersey that have passed this ordinance, and enforcement has not been a problem. By and large, it's self-enforcing because it's now on the books. It makes it easier for a person to say to another person, excuse me, there's no smoking allowed here, and they can work it out themselves. So it's not a huge enforcement issue. It doesn't come up that way. Thank you.
Seeing no other person to speak on this ordinance, I move that the hearing be closed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Therefore, I move that the ordinance be adopted on the second reading and final passage. And if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
need a second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Yes. Councilwoman Reed,
Yes.
Councilman Matt,
Yes.
Councilman Storch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Reed,
Well, yes.
Council President Rivers.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted.
The floor is now open for public comments limited to resolutions, motions, and ordinance to be introduced on first reading. Please be advised that a total time of 30 minutes have been allocated to permit members of the public to comment on resolutions and motions considered this evening. Each speaker will be permitted a maximum time limit of 3 minutes to comment. Members of the public may speak once during this segment of the meeting, appearing under resolutions and motions. The time allotted on each item is non-cumulative. Extensions of 3 minute, an extension of 3 minute time limit will be granted only at the discretion of the city council president or upon a majority vote of the members present.
Howard, you're searching 50s because you know Council Reed. I'm glad to be here too. The alternative would not be very nice.
Thank you, sir.
I wish to request that 4 of the resolutions be taken off the consent agenda. I don't believe they belong on there because either the amounts involved or the fact that they all have to do with a misfunction in the city administration and the tax collector's office. And that's 264, 265, 266, and 268. I think it should be properly excluded individually.
Repeat those numbers, please, sir.
264, 265, 266, and 268.
Thank you.
I do want to speak about Resolution 273. I think I've made my opinion on that resolution pretty obvious in my blog over the last few days, and I'm not going to repeat it. This resolution is quite similar to one which was introduced earlier this year and then tabled for some reason which I do not remember, but I think it's exactly the same resolution as was originally introduced. So if it wasn't appropriate, then I do not seek a resolution which will be binding on the next administration, the next director of public safety, when it will be probably taking office within the next 6 months. I am not against the review and consultant going over the police division. Obviously, from the letter communication that I received from Captain Soltis, there are a great many things that need revision and bringing the division up to date. Obviously, some of the functions being done in the division go back to the 20th century. That sounds like a long time ago, but it's only 13 years ago. And they have to be up to date. It has to be redone. But I believe this should be the province of the next director of public safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Turner Kavanaugh, and I live at 935 Fernwood Avenue. I would like to urge you, please, to support Resolution 284, which is the request for county funds to stabilize what's being called the Lampkin House on Terrell Road. I was here last week when various members of the city council expressed concern that there needed to be public support to take over dealing with that house so that it does not become a burden on the taxpayers. I am personally willing to work on such an organization, and as soon as there's a 501c3, I will put $1,000 into the treasury towards that house. I have talked to Dottie Pollard, who has promised every penny of the profit she made on the 2 books of Plainfield history to the project, and before we all get too excited, that's a total of $2,466, but it's every penny she made on the books of Plainfield history. I talked tonight to Reggie Thomas, who's a former member of the Historic Preservation Commission. He is an architect. He does live in a historic district, and he is willing to work on this organization. Bill Garrett, who has a lot of experience in local renovations, has agreed to work for the organization and to put up money. Maria Pelham and Edgar Martinez have agreed to help and to put up money. So I hope you understand that until we have a 501c3, we really can't accept money, but that we do have good people in the city of Plainfield willing to support the organization, and we do understand your concern, but we would like to get that house stabilized so that it doesn't suffer further damage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Fuller, and I live at 981 Central Avenue. I too want to speak on Resolution 284, the Lampkin Farmhouse. I understand the council's decision that you are not in favor of owning that historic structure, and I agree that that is a fiscally responsible decision. The plan to turn responsibility for the house over to a newly to be formed nonprofit organization is a good idea. Plainfield residents understood the importance of historic preservation long before other communities or other states. Actually, a volunteer group saved the Drake House Museum from demolition in 1921. After the Second World War and the growth of the suburbs, people left cities, causing them to deteriorate. Familiar parts of our country's past were lost. Many people were fascinated when Jackie Kennedy moved into the White House in 1961 and began restoring it. Millions of people watched her on TV. A few years later, the Pennsylvania Railroad Station was demolished. The New York City Landmarks Preservation Law was passed in 1965 to slow demolition of other landmark properties in New York City. In the late 1960s, there was Plainfield vintage housing stock that was became available for sale. Our nation's 1976 bicentennial drew attention to history and our country's past. Many local towns established historical societies. By that time, Plainfield's historical society was 55 years old. The city has always been a model for historic preservation. In 1979, the City Council enacted the first historic preservation ordinance, and that led to establishment of the Historic Preservation Commission, the 9 historic districts that we now have, and also the publishment of the design guidelines, which set the standards for restoration, which became a model for other historic preservation groups, both in and out of New Jersey. And another important thing they did, the Historic Preservation Commission, was to establish local historic preservation status for sites and districts. And local designation is the first line of defense in restoring, in protecting a historic property. This evening, I just want to talk about the many preservation enthusiasts in Plainfield who look at the Lankin farmhouse as Plainfield's next opportunity for historic preservation. We can't guarantee we're going to be successful, but we can use the strategies that have been successful so far. There are two kinds of grants, operating and capital. Those that offer capital are fewer than those that offer operating. The state has two programs, the New Jersey Historic Trust and the New Jersey Cultural Trust.
Council President,
Yes.
would you like to request the extension of time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes, please.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
The Union County Grant Program is making a difference in Plainfield properties too. This was the tax that voters enthusiastically supported about 10 years ago. Kind of a small tax, but it's the Union County Open Space Recreation and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. And within that is the grant program that we're talking about for the farmhouse. Other money would be available through private and family donations. We'll have to go to private donors and ask them to support the project. And of course, there'll be a need for the new nonprofit to have some fundraisers. Each of these grant programs requires a matching contribution. So the total cost of a capital project is made up of equal parts of a grant and matching funds from the organization. The Historic Preservation Movement and the Land Conservation Open Space Movement have some common goals. Combined interests will benefit from new funding sources in the near and distant future. This could be beneficial both to the Lampkin property and Plainfield's 30-acre water retention basin, which is close to the Peterson Farm, which is already part of the Union County Open Space Program. Plainfield's historic preservation movement contributes to the city's economy by bringing hundreds of people into the city each year, just as the July 4th parade and other celebrations do. House tours sponsored by one of the historic districts or other historic organization attract people from the tri-state area to house tours and garden tours. Homeowners hire carpenters, landscapers, and other tradesmen skilled in repairing and maintaining vintage structures, and local real estate offices assist many people who want to move to Plainfield. Thank you for listening about why historic preservation is so important to the city of Plainfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eloise Kenley, 937 Hillside Avenue. I am also the president of the Historical Society of Plainfield. And as Barbara Fuller mentioned, in 1921, a group of citizens came together to save the Drake House from demolition. And that group ultimately became the Historical Society of Plainfield and have managed the house since that time. Now, in our case, the house was deeded to the city of Plainfield. So as we tell everyone who comes in, this is the house that belongs to the citizens. However, a group of volunteers over the period of 90 some odd years have managed the house. And I just want to reiterate what Barbara said about people coming into Plainfield. Despite the fact that some people see the West End as, you know, that bad end of town, we have managed to recruit and invite over 1,000 people into that house over a period of a year. We do tours for children from South Plainfield, North Plainfield, and the Plainfield Public Schools. And it gives an opportunity for the city to showcase another aspect of this community. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'm here to endorse the application for the grant from the Union County Preserve and Union County Fund. Thank you.
Thank you.
It doesn't go any lower. Sandy Gershman, 957 Madison Avenue. I'm also chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I serve along with Eloise on the Historical Society Board. And I want to urge you to take this opportunity to bring further acclaim to Plainfield for historic preservation. You only get a chance like this once in a lifetime, maybe, and we should take it. I just want to let you know that it's not going to be a competition to the Drake House, but a complimentary draw. It just expands the opportunities for people to come to Plainfield to see history in real life. So I'm asking you to stop the demolition by neglect, as we call it, and bring this house back to life. Thank you.
Council President, I know we're going to have some discussion on this, so should we have that discussion now or wait till the resolution comes up? What do you all?
Then we'll let the President Flood proceed, and then we can, when the resolution comes, we can discuss it.
Good evening. So my name is Eric Terrain. I'm also here in support of the Lampkin House. My company is the Terrain Group. I actually was recruited by Bill for the effort probably about a week ago. By way of background, my training was as an investment banker in 2005. I started my own company, the Terrain Group. We're a development company, do a lot of 501c3 work, and I'll be charged with establishing the 501c3 here. I do have history in the city of Plainfield. Actually done 2 501c3 projects here since 2008. The African American Fund preschool on 7th is one of my projects, as well as the Central Jersey Arts Charter School on 1225 South Avenue. That's also one of my projects. 1225 project actually was one that did not have a 501c3 established before we got to it. The IRS typically gives you about a 6 to 8 month window to actually receive your 501c3 status. On 1225 South Avenue, we actually got that done in 37 days. While I don't have the benefit of some of the history of the prior conversations from being a transaction guy, just from putting the deal together, which would be the 501c3, the construction package, as well as the capitalization structure. That's actually what I do really all over the country on a daily basis. And so from the technical parts of this, quite frankly, I don't see a particularly large challenge. I think from the support that I'm seeing from some of the private donations that we're seeing, certainly this will be a project where we would be syndicating historic tax credits. I think that from the technical aspects of it, I think that we can move very quickly and achieve a lot of things that that the folks here want to achieve.
Can you step right from
Sure.
I usually don't let the back and forth go in and out.
I have just one question for you. I recognize your name when you...
I recognize yours as well. I hope mine was in a good way. I hope you mean the same thing.
Were you responsible for putting together the bonding for the Black United Fund?
I was.
As well as for the charter school?
I was.
The freeholder board?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of what I do is, so with the investment banking background, a lot of what I do is raise capital. I sort of backed into the development side of it, but that's correct.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, well, since you're up here and you...
So I was trying to get away before you came.
You sound like you might know more about the financing than some of the historic preservation people. So this is, looking at the background information that we received, this is the estimated cost of this project overall is over $1 million.
Right. And
that's in today's dollars. This is a long-term project. It's going to take a long time to raise those funds. So we're talking more than $1 million. So far, and I'm really impressed with the local energy that's behind this. if you would add up the dollars that are going in up front, it's way less than 1% of the total cost.
Sure.
Now, in a lot of these projects, the feasibility study is done, and when they go public with some kind of capital campaign, they've got 50% raised already. We're talking about raising so far $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 towards $1 million. So it's clear this project, especially when matching funds are required, is going to come back to the city, and then is going to be competing with the Drake House for scarce matching funds that the city probably can't afford to give. So what other mechanisms? You mentioned tax credits.
Sure.
Could you explain how that would work in this project?
Absolutely, and stepping back for a moment, but sort of relying on what the previous speaker said, and we're talking on the capital side of this, not the operating side. We're talking $1 million, correct? Okay. So the way tax credits work, and as a matter of fact, 1225 South Avenue was actually also had federal tax credits in it. And so the way tax credit work in general, it can be particularly in low-income housing, but also for education or for historic projects. There's a tax credit given, primarily used by C Corps. There's a less of a market, but you can also see them in S Corps and LLCs where, let's say you were CEO of a company and you had a $100,000 tax liability. What you could do is go purchase $100,000 of tax credits to offset that liability. But it has a nice cyclical effect because then your $100,000 moves back into the community, into a project. You're made whole by deferring the taxes, but we still get the benefit of your cash for the project. So in a historical tax credit project like this one, tax credits come on two levels, 20% or 10%. From everything I'm seeing, this would be a 20% project, but if even it were a 10% project, what we would do is we would go out and say, okay, we've got $1 million worth of costs. We want to sell an appropriate amount of tax credits for that $1 million. We would probably raise in between $400,000 and $500,000 from the syndication of the tax credits. So how I'm looking at the the capitalization structure is, if it's $1 million project, I know I can syndicate my tax credits and I can go get $500,000. And again, I don't have the full benefit of the history here, but I think my understanding is there's a $65,000 and another $65,000 grant that's in play now for $130,000. So if that's accurate, now my bogey is really only $350,000, and that's even before we started the project. So in terms of what I see every day, there's certainly a lot of work to do, but in terms of an insurmountable lift, I don't see that, and I've certainly not had a project have to come back to a city for funds, and I don't anticipate that here.
So, just one other question. Are these tax credits for historic projects?
They are.
Similar to like the low-income housing tax credits in that they're very competitive, you have to apply for them and compete against other proposals?
So it's two levels. So in the low-income housing tax credits, you have the 9% and the 4%. The 4% are non-competitive and analogous to the 20% and the 10% in the historics. So anytime that we would talk about numbers, we would talk about the 10% because we could certainly get those, but then we would go compete for the 20. If we could get the 20, then these numbers get considerably better. But when you're dealing with these type of projects, you always want to deal with your worst case scenario.
And would the city be applying, or would it be the nonprofit?
No, it would be the 501c3 that would be applying.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of what I do is try to take, the company in general focuses really on urban projects and trying to put capital where it isn't, but we really focus on bringing private capital into other projects and certainly keeping municipalities and the tax base out of it.
Sir, can you do this project without the city having to put in a matching $63,000?
Is that matching $63,000? What's that issue now?
That's what it says here, that the city would have to be matched, would have to match.
I think that someone else they would have to speak would have a little more history just in this sense. I understand that the property is in terrible condition right now, and that this cash is actually meant as a stabilization. So as I understood it coming in, there would be funds to stabilize, and at that point, I would come in and raise the additional capital. So that's my understanding as of now.
So what you're saying that no matter what, the city would have to put up at least $63,000.
Well, I would say that, except I would use the word at most. Per my understanding, again, I haven't spearheaded this project, but per my understanding, the $63,000 is critical to get to the next step. But after that point, I wouldn't anticipate coming back to the city at all.
Okay, so, all right, because that was the other part of my question. Do you foresee, after that 63, where are we going? How much more are you going to come back and back and back?
I foresee coming back and inviting you to the grand opening. Okay?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for all the time you've given us so far tonight. I did take your comments last week to heart. As you can see, we've had many discussions since. Many people have coming forward. I really appreciate Eric Terrain coming and providing some of the financial background to this. I think you can see there is support in the community for this project. I also hope that you can see that we believe that there are also mechanisms through which we can obtain the financial support. Everything Eric said in response to the questions that Council asked were correct. Councilwoman, I don't want to mislead you, that 63, it might be 65,000, is needed to stabilize. But if you recall, 2 years ago when Gail Hunton was here speaking from the Historic Preservation Commission, she indicated that once it's stabilized, and I'll use the word mothball, it may not be 100% correct, but that term is also thrown around a little bit. Once it's stabilized, it can sit for a little bit. We have time to move forward. As Mr. Terrain indicated, he actually obtained the last 501c3 that he obtained in less than 2 months. We can move forward with the grant request now, get the match from the county, stabilize the structure within the next year, then start moving, and as that work is being done, move forward with the 501c3. Then the 501c3 can actually make a next application either to the county or to the state. And I did also contact during the week our congressional representatives. This project does fall within the Crossroads of the Revolution program of the federal government. And obviously, no congressman has said I'm guaranteeing you funds, but at the same time, they've indicated that the structure does qualify. We can go forward, submit the application through the 501c3, not the city. And as Mrs. Fuller mentioned, the end result here can be a jewel for the city, a 36-acre educational, historic nature preserve that no other town, maybe Mountainside Washington Reservation can claim something equal to it. But in Union County, this would be a unique resource, and certainly something that is not readily available to all of the students in the city at this point in time. I strongly urge you to support this, and I'm here to have any questions.
Yes. Mr. President?
Sure.
Would you be getting, or would the city be getting started with Mr. Terrain on the formation of the 501c3 immediately?
As soon as the
if
county,
not, why not?
well, as soon as the county tells us we received the grant, but there is no reason why we could not do it without them. We could answer your question. Yes, we can certainly do that.
Why would it be dependent on what the county says or it doesn't say?
Councilman is not. As I'm thinking it through, I hope you realize that my first thought was wait for the grant, but no, there's no reason to. There's no reason to wait for the grant at all.
If the grant were not to come through, would you abandon the effort? I would hope or think not.
I would agree with you. I would think not, because the county grant comes available every 2 years. The more that this structure is left in the state in which it's in, the more it's going to cost to stabilize it. So we would continue to request. We would not give up, but it's going to cost more money the longer we wait. If you recall, 2 years ago we asked for 90 and there was no end in sight. Now it's 65 and the end is in sight. I thank you.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to speak again?
No.
Okay.
Charles Weltner from 950 Fernwood Avenue, and I support the city spending the money to shore up and mothball the property.
Thank you. Any more? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
Madam President, if I may be quick to see, and I believe we're going to go into the consent agenda, if I may. I would like to request of the council to table Resolution 278-13. The primary reason is my department was unable to schedule and confirm a firm schedule of the cooperative pricing that would be essential for us to move this project forward, so we're requesting to table it at this time. That's my first of two requests. Thank you. Just want to put the council on notice. And my second is to request of the body to remove Resolution 270-13 from the consent agenda to a voting item. And when we get to it, I can give discussion at the council's request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now on the consent agenda. All matters listed in the action are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the new business and its normal sequence later on the agenda.
Thank you. It's a little confusing, but here I go. I offer those resolutions listed on this evening's consent agenda, which are identified as R 240-13 through 248. Then I move to 267, will be on there. 269. And we move 270. And then I started 271, 272. Then 274 through 276, 282 through 283, and 285 through 287. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
I had 240 to 248. I also had
264, 265, 266, we are removing completely.
yes, removing that one.
270, we have been requested to table.
Yes,
So 267 will remain on there, correct?
yes.
269 and 271 and 272. Okay, and then the balance is listed.
Yes.
Okay, I offer these resolutions as a motion and move for adoption.
Second. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
Okay, and then we will deal with
I need a roll
the,
call on this consent agenda.
okay.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Roll call.
Councilwoman Reeves,
Yes.
Councilman Matt,
Yes.
Councilman Stewart,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Reed,
Yes.
Council President Rivers.
Yes.
You may begin.
Mr. Chairman, would you please offer the remaining resolutions?
Okay, here I go. I hereby introduce resolution 249-13, authorizing renewal of the Pueblo Viejo Corporation's license to serve liquor.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention, motion carries.
I hereby introduce resolution 250-13, authorizing renewal of the Marie Group trading as Chez Marie and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer resolution 251, authorizing renewal of the Adreno Terry's Liquors trading as San Hallmark Liquors and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention, motion carries.
I hereby offer resolution 252-13, granting the advice and consent to the appointment of Diane Sherry Bono to serve as treasurer for the city of Plainfield, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer Resolution 253-13, authorizing a professional service contract to the Bracy and Racy in the amount not to exceed $5,000, and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer Resolution 254-13, authorizing a professional service contract to the Marion R. Rubin in an amount not to exceed $5,000, and move for its adoption.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer 255-13, authorizing a professional service contract to Ladal Scott Foster in the amount not to exceed $5,000, and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer Resolution 256-13, authorizing a professional service contract with the Jerry Cantar Esquire in the amount not to exceed $5,000, and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby introduce Resolution 257-13, authorizing a professional service contract to the Eric Bernstein and Associates LLC in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
Council, I hereby introduce Resolution 258-13, authorizing an additional appropriation in the amount of $15,000 to the Rudderman and Glickman for professional service, and I move for its adoption as well.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby introduce Resolution 259-13, authorizing the Menser and Menser to serve as special counsel to provide legal representation, and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby introduce Resolution 260-13, authorizing the mayor to enter into a health shared service partnership agreement with the Union County Local Information Network, and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby offer Resolution, if I can get this thing out. Okay. Sorry, folks. I hereby introduce Resolution R-261-13, authorizing the mayor and the municipal clerk to execute an agreement with the County of Union to modify the interlocal service agreement, and move for its adoption.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions, motion carries.
I hereby introduce Resolution R-262-13, authorizing the purchase of emergency generation services through an online auction service, and move for its adoption.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd recommend a motion to amend. We've now had the auction to provide the lowest bidder, and Mr. Restaino is available to explain the results of that bid.
Is that the new resolution that was passed out tonight?
That's correct.
The resolution corrected?
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Costello.
Thank you. Good evening, Council, and I appreciate your indulgence. Last Friday, the online auction was held run by EMEX. The results have been presented to you in the revised resolution, which indicates the results for both the city-owned buildings and for the street lighting that the city is responsible for as well. The anticipated savings during the course of this contract is estimated, and again, we don't know all the particulars on what we're going to spend, but based upon prior year's spending, the cost we paid previously for kilowatt hour and the current rate, we should be saving about $60,000 through this process.
Question. question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My concern about this is that the way it was presented last week, there was no indication that you would go out for an auction prior to the adoption of the resolution, which was presented to us on the agenda session last week, seeking approval to go out to auction. And so the approval hasn't been given for the council to go out to do an auction. I think it's a good thing because the city saves money, but I don't think that it was properly communicated to us last week in terms of the process. But I'm not going to get hung up on process because at the end of the day, savings are savings. I think what should be presented to this governing body, now that this resolution is being presented in this form, is an analysis of what those savings look like, what the cost would be if we continue to use the utility company as the provider of the commodity versus a new provider. And I think we should have had an analysis with all of the accounts that are involved, what it has cost us, and what we will save when comparing the results of the auction. That's what
And I can take responsibility for that. Obviously, I wasn't here last Monday. I did have a personal obligation. But I can provide council with the current utility costs. We anticipated being about 7.25% savings on the government buildings and a very close percentage as well on the street lighting, but I can provide that. The intent of bringing it to you last week was just to let you know, the council, that in order for us to take advantage of this, we had to have the auction as close to the actual date of approval as possible. Because of procurement regulations, we couldn't have the auction on a Monday prior to a council meeting, so it had to be held last Friday. I do appreciate and respect your comments. Obviously, we are looking at ways to save money any way possible.
I have a question. We will continue to have the power lines feed us for all electric, and we will not pay public service but pay these companies?
There will be absolutely no change. In fact, the way it essentially works is we will still be getting a bill from PSE&G. It'll just list this third-party energy provider on the bill, and we will be paying it in that fashion. So we're not. There's really, from an administrative standpoint, there's no difference or no additional administrative burden placed on the city whatsoever.
In other words, public service send us a bill, and instead of paying public service, we would make the check out to the company that won the bid.
Yep.
It seems strange, however, that public service can just, why didn't they bid? I mean, they're doing it now. Why don't public service lower their rates?
You know, it's almost it's almost like a monopoly, and this is a way the deregulation has addressed that. It's allowed municipalities, it's allowed individuals to seek alternative methods of energy provision. The poles are the same, the wires are the same. There's nothing that's going to change from the city's perspective.
It just seems strange to me that we can get electric much cheaper. You say $60,000 a year. Is that the 2 years?
I anticipate that over the 2-year period is going to be about $60,000.
So we say $30,000 a year.
Approximately $30,000 a year, based upon current or past usage, our electrical usage.
Thank you. I introduced it.
Council President, I need a second on that motion to amend.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Just a comment. When one of our cabinet members or senior officials cannot be at the meeting,